mechanism.
I am fine. By the time it's whirred around a few times, we'll be... I do feel I need a crank handle for this sometimes. Right, we are underway.
Thank you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first part meeting of current year and the flood system, the Great Flood of 26. Apologies for absence, please.
I have apologies from Councillor Holt due to illness.
Thank you. Proposal that we accept apologies. Councillor Yelland, Councillor Ireland seconded. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. To receive disclosures of interest from councillors on matters to be considered at the meeting. The disclosure shall include the nature of the interest. If a member becomes aware during the course of the meeting of an interest that has not been disclosed, they must do so immediately. Item 3, public participation. If the owl looks round, he'll see there's no one there. Item 4, a report, please, from Park Leader, Mr McCahon.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Considering the fact that we've had an awful lot of rain the last few weeks, I don't think we've had a dry day in months, it feels like. We've actually managed to achieve quite a bit in the last sort of 6 weeks of the year. We've had the bridge resurfaced, so we had new metal plates put down and then a new anti-slip surface put across it. That took a little bit longer than we wanted, but mainly due to the fact of the weather. But finally a dry day came and they managed to lay the stuff, so that is all sorted and shouldn't have to be touched for a very long time. We planted a new gorse bush up by Wands in the moorland area up there. So that is already flowering, which is excellent. We had a soil test done on the wildflower area, which came back saying that it was slightly low on its pH and low in phosphorus and potassium. So we've got some lime granules to put down to try and slightly bring up the pH, and also some potash to try and up the phosphorus and potassium, to try and get those levels much better for growing, and should hopefully help the yield in the years to come. We've done the composting and the wood chip, so all the compost we make on site throughout the year, that's gone out onto the flower beds, and other places around the town have wood chip put on them to try and stop the weeds getting quite so carried away. We've done the big garden bird watch in the park, which showed up some new species that we hadn't seen before. We had blackcaps in the park over the winter, which is quite unusual. They're normally a migrating species. But one's been using the feeder down in the rose garden a lot, which is good, and a lot of siskins as well, which is also quite a good sign. But it's all sort of new things we're recording in the park, and all helps with sort of getting a bit more of knowledge of what's used in the park and what we can plant to help them. We started organising the wildlife events for this year that are going to run in the park. So we're looking at a hedgerow day, looking at possibly getting someone to come in to show us some hedge laying, and also look at some of the species that use the hedges and stuff like that in the park. A wildlife walk and insect catching day, so we're going to use the meadow and have nets trying to catch some of the insects that use the meadow, and identifying them. We're going to rerun the bat and moth event, which was very successful last year, and looking to try and get the Devon Bat Group to come along on that as well, to put some of their expertise across. And then we're going to do a tree ID and bird boxes walk, and I'm trying to get someone from the BTO to come and do a bit of ringing on some of the small birds, just so we can sort of keep track of them in the park, see if they continue to use the park when they fledge. And I think we'll combine a bit of a list pick into that, and that's all with Wild Oakie. So we're just going to sort out some dates, but it's going to be sort of some holidays, weekends, stuff like that. Frog spawn, plenty of that in the pond. A little bit later than usual, but it's all there. And while we were doing the pond clearing, we found a lot of baby newts in there, and also quite a few damselfly larvae, which was all good to find. And we stacked all the stuff that we got out of the ponds beside the ponds for a good week before we removed it, so anything else that we didn't see while we were clearing it out. even though we had Jacob and the apprentice Sam sifting through it with gloves to find everything that was coming out and putting back in. Anything that we didn't see, we had a chance to crawl back in. Although I think if it had stayed out, it probably would have stayed as wet. What else has happened? We had the big, large oak tree fall just before Christmas, down near the old new bandstand, as I call it. But by Chalet Trelaw there, we had a large oak tree uproot itself, take out a fair bit of the path up in the woods. So we did a lot of the clearing up ourselves of that. And then just some of the larger bits of the tree we had cleared up by a contractor, which was too big for our chainsaws. And we will be discussing that later. And pressure washing of the park's been done. We've removed some of the old roses so we can start to regenerate them. And I've got a meeting about the riverbank repairs on March the 3rd to look at some of the new damage that's come from all the rain that's come down. And if you're all still awake, well done.
That's the meet.
Yeah, on that, I know we got poor damage, but did we eventually get permission from the Environment Agency to do the work that was done? And now you have to go back to them and wait another year to get it finished.
No, the Environmental Agency have approved all the work, so that can go ahead. We're sort of hoping for May time for a start date on it, obviously depending on weather and stuff like that, but they're going to come with it on March. So a lot of the new damage is just extension of areas that are already damaged. They've just got slightly bigger or slightly higher. It's just washed out a few more stones. That's all that's really happened. So it's just basically they're going to come in March, have a look at that, take note of it all, and then all ready to start when the water levels drop slightly.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Something I thought I'd hear in your report, I hadn't heard. How are the squirrels getting on? How are they doing?
There's plenty of them, I'll just say that.
We'll talk about that in part 2. Okay. Any members' questions? To receive questions from members regarding the workings of the committee. Councillor Ireland?
Yeah, it's to do with Parklands Leisure Centre. I just want to report and just say that I'm concerned about this because it affects quite a number of people. Is that the class that they run it used to be twice a week called Strength and Balance, which is for people with strokes and other things that are wrong with them. And what I want to say to you is that from running sort of 4 classes a week, really, 2 on Tuesdays and 2 on Fridays, it's gone down to half that to just the 2 1-hour sessions on a Tuesday. So that is just a concern because it affects people with hidden disabilities and so forth. And I think it's something I promised I would raise for other colleagues out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6. Can I propose that you confirm and approve and sign the minutes of the Parks Committee meetings held on the 17th of November and the 1st of December?
Yep.
Councillor Ireland, thank you. All in favour? Thank you. Unanimous? Do that. Item 7. It's on the list, is it? Bookings? That's separate, isn't it?
You won't see anything because we are still waiting for some paperwork for some, but there is a St George's Day event in April that is underway and being organised. The PTFA would like to run a colour run in the park, and the fair is coming in June and the dates have been confirmed.
Thank you. That's just to be noted. And we await the necessary paperwork. 7.2, seating in Simmons Park to consider
There's part B.
to consider a booking request. Sorry.
This is the inflatable event that we had before, additional information by receipt of all the required paperwork is the reason for the reconsideration request. The hire has asked that the confusion about the situation at the last meeting be noted. We have got all the paperwork which is completed correctly and is adequate. The inflatables are PIPA tested and overnight security would be provided. Fencing off of the inflatable area for the event is asked for in it, but the terms and conditions of the hire state that during the hire period, members of the public must be allowed to access the public open space. So the reason for it coming back is, do you want to allow this event or not? And if you do, what are the terms you would like to impose on it, similar to the fair in terms of cost and bonds?
Councillor Yellen.
Okay, just to clarify that the hirer is asking if they can fence off, and is that a health and safety issue, presumably?
I also think it's a charging issue so that they can control, you pay an entry fee, so I take it the entry fee gets you into the fenced enclosed area, as I understand it.
Okay, so, and that is something for us to agree or not to agree to?
Yes.
So if we did agree to that, that would then obviously exclude members of the public getting in. How large an area are we actually talking about of them for being able to fence off? Presumably they would do the fencing if it was.
They would. It looks to be about half of the grassed area. It's not a small event. I don't know if anyone went through the park last year when the PTFA held their event. This company came and did some there. I think it's a slightly larger version of that. So possibly half the size of what the Rotary Fair has. We are talking about being fenced off for inflatables.
Okay, so it's just not one bouncy castle.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Marsh.
When are we going to discuss the cost of them coming, or their charges? Should it be now?
Yes.
True.
We can discuss it now because the fair is charged the same and invoiced,
Right.
unless you wish to take it into part 2.
Is there any reason why we can't say that it's the same charges for the fair?
Yes. So the fair is operational for 3 days. This will be operational for 2 days. So that would be 2/3 of the cost of the fair, plus the refundable bond in the event of any damage, which the fair pays £500, and we would ask the same for that.
Anybody else?
Could we just look at them from them? Are they needing any other setup? If they're there for 2 days, or are we talking of a setup and then people going in for 1 day, or are we talking of setting up and then the public for 2 days?
The second, setting up and then public for 2 days,
So
operational
are they
for 2
going to be
days.
there for 3 days then?
Yes.
Okay. Toilet facilities?
As I understand it, they will bring or hire toilets.
Is there any precedent already been set about locking off the park for payment? Do we know? Have we done it before? Okay.
And charge them.
If there's nothing else, do somebody want to propose that we use the fairground policies with regard to charging and the bond? Councillor Leach. Second for that one? Councillor Connell. All in favour? Any abstentions? Councillor Marsh. And no one against. 7.2, sitting in Simmons Park to consider proposal from Councillor Marsh and to agree a suitable location in Simmons Park or at another location.
I think in all honesty I need to withdraw this one because it's come to you before I realised it was going to. If there is a cost to it, I will tell you very briefly how this came about. I've got lots of pieces of granite, and the suggestion was that those bits on the pencil drawing underneath, those bits around it, those are the pieces of granite that I've got. And then they were talking, the thought was to make a table
to go with it, but I think the costs are going to be more than what the council can afford. So at the moment, I'd like to defer it and think about it again for the beginning.
Thank you. Item 8, cemetery. 8.1, burials. To note an update.
We have had 3 burials and 1 headstone permit since we last met, which has been rather a lot more than we've been used to in previous months, and I'm hoping it's not setting a trend.
Thank you. 8.2, memorial inspection. Consider feedback from the post-Christmas inspection and tidy up.
We were up there Thursday in the delightful weather. The committee needs to note that the ground has loosened up somewhat significantly, so the stones that were all wobbly in the summer, it was just down to the ground conditions, and we have not got any dangerous stones and only a few with some movement. There are a couple of families we will be writing to because their stones are quite new and the joints are already starting to rock and get water in there. Yes, I mean, we have had an unprecedented amount of rain. It probably has not helped setting the glue around them, but we will let the families know.
Thank you. 8.3, stonemason review. In accordance with previous resolutions, take policy to consider a report in relation to the memorial masons. And this is where your picture comes in, I think.
The picture, when we were up there on Thursday, this is one of the newer rows. And as you can see, there are 5 gravestones in this row. 3 of them have been fitted by the same mason, and none of them are in line, which is actually going to make burial behind the grey one with the teddy bear on quite tricky, because the gap has been shrunk to the previous row because they are so out of line. So we are wondering whether we are actually going to have to go and mark up on the grave space where the headstone has to be to try and line them up, because that is very, very wonky, and if the masons in the next following row start following that, we are going to lose grave spaces because we won't be able to get a full size, possibly more a man than a woman, in, because it will have shrunk less than the 6 foot.
Mr. Coleman?
Have we had any reasoning behind this?
No.
Because, so, as a builder, I'm looking at that and I'm appalled that anyone would do anything like that that gets paid to do these things. So, I think maybe we should look into that.
Councillor Leach?
Might be a silly question, but are these stones set at the head of the graves that dug?
They...
Is it because the people who dug the graves haven't dug them straight up?
No. The gravedigger has done a very good job of keeping them in row, and we have an upright on the end of the row that he works to, and he is very good at keeping them in row and keeping them in tight. It is the fact that the grey one, the headstone and the coffin, should be closer to where the first bunch of flowers is than where it is. It is actually nearly sat on the feet of the previous row. And this is the first row where we've had this significant a problem. There are slight variations, but nothing like this.
Any, sorry, yep. Mr. Coleman?
If I may. Could we potentially look to the future and actually set out stakes along the road, so we have a stake at one end of the road, stake at the other end of the road, so any mason can come along and string a line, that's where it goes.
Is that, you're the one who bangs the stake in, is that an option?
Yeah, we put another one in. We got one in already.
Yes, we have one for the gravedigger, but they have taken where the actual markers have been put and not even put the stones to that.
Councillor Bird, then Councillor Marsh.
Have we spoken to the stonemason and asked the question why?
Well, that is what we only went up there Thursday, and this is what would you like us to write? I mean, 3 of the stones are fitted by the stonemason we have had issues with in the past, which is why we have a stonemason review every 6 months. But there are 3 different companies who have put stones up in that row. So, would you like us to write to the stonemasons to address this issue?
Yeah,
Councillor Marsh?
That was what I was going to ask, and also, can we ask them to take them up and line them up properly?
Good idea,
Councillor Yellen?
Should we just keep the families informed? Because obviously, I mean, this is something that's very precious, and they're going to be very upset to think that somebody's messing around with a gravestone, basically. And yes, I agree that is the one that's all out of line. Is that done by that same stonemason who's done others, or is this a different?
No. That is the stonemason, I believe, who has done 3 in that row.
The
And
black ones?
no, the black ones that line up are not the same mason.
So it's the 2 odd ones, that grey one and that black one over there that have done. He seems to have lined them up to themselves, actually. Do those two? Do you see them from
Yes. The stone that went in first is right down by the fence. Then these ones have gone in, and that is the latest stone to go in, so it's not even sort of kept up with everything else that's in that row.
I think my question, Chairman, is that one and that one, are they, because from here, just the angle of the photograph, those 2 look as if they're lined up, and these 3 look as if they're lined up. So I'm just wondering if that stonemason is lining up with his own previous work?
No.
No, okay, it's just for the red photo thing.
Yes.
So I think the proposal is that we contact and the families, all the relevant masons, and ask them to sort it out. No?
My proposal, sort of, which I will propose now, is not ask the families to sort them out.
No.
Inform the families that
Inform
we're...
that,
yes.
that we're asking the stonemason and they need to come back and deal with it.
Can I add to that? Could we also amend our policies with regards to the stonemasons and what their duties are within the yard to make sure that these things are done correctly? If there's not something in it already to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and that include putting two stakes in
Yeah,
and draw the line.
what I was thinking was we could set out stakes, even if it's just a small post at one end and another small post at the other end, so that anyone can get string along.
Did the stonemasons come back and tell us when they're going to put these headstones in?
No, they don't, because sometimes it's a bit weather dependent and what other things they're doing. So they may come and remove a stone for a burial and fit another one while they're here, and they have to apply and have a permit to be allowed to do the work, but we don't often get a date of when they're going to be there. Just because it's with the weather we've had, it's very difficult for them sometimes to say.
Councillor Leach?
I don't think it's my fault, but I think it's adding insult to injury that this grey one isn't even up straight. Beside it was put up straight, and the right let it sink and the weight of the stone. If it's full stop.
So the proposal is then that we write to the stonemasons and ask them to sort it out, to line up this row anyway, inform the families, we amend our policies to make sure that there is a definite line in the sand, and we make them aware of them when they come back, if they come back. Councillor Yelland?
I was going to say, and also when the stake is put in this a piece of indicator of where to go, to be clear that whether the memorial goes in front or behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course when there's something there, do you go to there or do you go to there? So I think that needs to be clarified.
Claudia?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the proposal. One second. Councillor Coleman, all in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Other outdoor areas. 9.1, skate park, lighting and CCTV. To note and update.
The electrical provision for the CCTV has been completed, and we are awaiting an installation date from the contractor.
Thank you. 9.2, Clapswood to note the felling of a dead tree which will be replaced.
Yeah, we had a dead sweet chestnut down there which had to be removed. It completely lost all life. So yeah, we're going to get a new one put in there. It was growing in quite an awkward spot in the middle of another tree, so we're going to position this one a bit further up the bank. But we did the big clearance down at Clapwood recently of brambles and that, and a lot of the trees we planted 4 years ago are all doing really well, and we removed a lot more of the tree guards.
Thank you. Zoning and mapping. Do you remember rightly we had a resolve to try and sort out how we maintain the park, giving them different priorities. So the manicure bit was done a priority over certain other bits. James has gone through this and highlighted the priority level. So low will be done as and when on a need basis. Medium will be done fortnightly and might be done at a reduced frequency if high priority areas need to have work done to them, and the high priority will be done weekly and will take precedent over and above all other areas. There's some paperwork which then talks about the areas that owned by us and maintained by us, other areas that are owned by other people but maintained by us, other areas that are owned by us but not maintained, but hopefully you've read through it. I might basically do you want to add anything?
Not really. This is sort of come for the council to look at and make their sort of decisions on whether they're happy with it or not.
Councillor Lynch?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Marsh was before me.
Councillor Marsh? How do you know?
I've just got a question about the area behind the Liddles. On map F it says there, and the future, about the future, in future only the fence line, the council's land, will be maintained and not the decking, as this is not in land within the area owned by the council. On one of these drawings you've got a red bit with little dots around it. I assume that that's the fence.
Yes.
The fence did go around the decking. It went around the edge of the decking, and the decking was on council land.
I have not been down there, so I do not know where the decking is. But, well, I'm
The
looking.
decking is there at the confluence, and it's on the grassland, and just a little bit of it just goes out, like cantilevered out over to keep it flat, because the grass area was sort of flat, and then it drops away down to the riverbank.
Well, according to Land Registry, then, from where you've described, that's still owned by Liddles and not the council.
Was owned by Devon County Council, and West Devon, I understand, purchased it.
That bit, according to Land Registry, is not West Devon's bit. Is the other side. Sort of.
The blue bit is Liddles.
No, the blue bit is ours.
This red then,
Is ours, and
Yes.
nothing else is ours.
and it's the decking is here.
So if it goes on to the green bit towards the river, that is on land that is registered to the Liddles site.
So there's a, is that not the riverbank here?
This appears to be a very weird registration of land, because I don't know that there's anything on the ground that really indicates where that zigzag goes.
Can the right people clarify it?
So from how it appears on the map, although the fence line goes out around the decking, the actual part of our land cuts inside the decking. So although there's a fence line to protect people going off the edge of the decking, that fence line doesn't actually make itself part of the fence line of the land. the decking stretches out from our bit of land, and then the fencing that runs along up towards Liddell isn't ours either.
I've got Councillor Yellen and Councillor Leach.
I'm not sure how helpful my question is going to be on the back of that. I've sort of got four really, which was, one was particularly, we're talking about the area of Caps Word, talks about it's not owned by the council, but there's a legal requirement under the terms of the agreement. I've never actually had sight of that agreement, and I wondered if it was just possible for councillors to have sight. I realise that it's an agreement that we've got to matter, but I haven't had sight of it, and I've been up for 12, I've been on the council for 12 years, so I wouldn't mind having an opportunity.
We have a copy of it. I'm sure that will be possible.
Thank you. And one of my other questions, if I may, was just, I was actually just going to clarify, on certain bits of land, we talked about the Verge by Waitrose, East Street Garden, and the area of the skate park by the Guide House Place, and also a bit about Little, was actually who does own those, so who would be responsible for them?
As far as I can tell from the map, Highways own the Waitrose Verge.
Yeah.
There is no indication who owns East Street Garden. And where was the third one, sorry?
The area of the skate park by the Guide House Place.
The guides then own that bit.
And the other bit was about behind Lidl, but I think we managed to confuse that one.
Councillor Leach.
Oh, no,
Sure.
yes, I'm coming back on something.
When it comes to the private piece on the woodland behind Carroll, when the council bought that station off West End, some of us weren't aware that that piece of land was private before it went right up to the road. So I don't know if there is an agreement. I don't remember seeing it quite. That's that bit. When it comes to the vehicles, we actually repaired that wooden decking 2 years ago, or whatever it was. So we must have thought at that time that was ours, and equally when it was created, because they had those carved patterns in the original bit. Someone must have checked to see if it was West End or not when it was transferred.
Councillor Marsh.
Digging myself a hole. Right. Crackswood area, that is an area that the Auckland Rivers Improvement Group cleared, and we were offered that to buy from West Devon Borough Council, and we couldn't afford it because we're only a little voluntary group, and then the council came in and purchased it from West Devon Borough Council, and we had agreement then from the owner of the property, Overbridge, that we could have the right of way across that land on the provision that we kept it as a permissive footpath, which we have done. We've closed it on a day every year. And there is an agreement about it. I could find a copy of it somewhere, I'm sure. The little bit, that was another of what the Auckland Rivers Improvement Group did, and that I think was back in 2011, somewhere like that. And that was an agreement we had with West Devon Borough Council. We went for a lottery bid to do that. And West Devon Borough Council gave us permission to do it all around there, so it was their land at the time. Susie Allen, who was the tree officer there, stipulated on some of the tree planting that was done, which subsequently has been vandalised and is no more. Then there was a third thing, but I can't remember what that is at the moment, but anyway, that clarifies some of the things that you asked.
Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back to the decking at Liddell's, and although apparently the fence line that protects people from falling off the decking isn't in our responsibility, if the decking is in our responsibility, then surely we have a duty of care to make sure that there's a reasonable rail there to stop people falling off of it.
Remember now,
And there's one.
the fence around Meadow Settlers House, we put that fence up because it was a fancy one, it wasn't just a post and rail one. And we got permission for all that and the pattern that was on the decking at the same time.
When you say yours, you mean Oric or do you mean...
Well, Oric, when we did it originally, we paid for it and we did it, and then it was all transferred in its entirety. I understood to the town council when we purchased these, or we had these pieces of land from West Devon.
It appears that what got registered wasn't quite what was said at the time, possibly.
Councillor Leach?
Back to land that's not ours, but it's still maintained. You said there's some trees that go the gateway to Oakhampton on the corner of Eastgate. But I understood that was Devon County.
It is Devon County.
And the look is on the corner of School Way by the little roundabout. That's Devon County. And there's any other bits of Devon County looking after free of charge. They will eventually become part of the unitary system. And I would be very sure that it's town council to let the unitaries look after what they have done. Not expect the town to pay for it, and not be some recommendations for it.
The piece of land there at East Street that was cleared and planted by Growing Our Future, and they were the one that commissioned the mural at the same time, and they had permission from Devon County Council to do all that work.
I don't know, what do we... whoever owns the land, we've got a list here of things that we're going to give priority to. And if you're happy with that, aside from who actually owns it, we can carry on with this particular procedure and worry about which bit ought to be owned as we go on, yeah? So if you're happy, we're going to, the low priority ones will be the verge at Waitrose, the East Street Garden, the wildlife area at Westbridge, the planting area behind Biddle, the main area of Clapswood, the banks around the BMX pump track, Platts Meadow and No Mow May areas. So they will be maintained as and when needed, but will not take priority over at Highstead.
Can I refer to the recommendation, because that there asked if we want to continue to maintain it or not, and you just mentioned them being on a low priority, which is I haven't got a problem with, but do we need to agree whether we're going to maintain those areas first?
Happy with that?
Or I'd like to propose that we continue doing those areas on a low maintenance as on.
So we've got a proposal that, first of all, we agree to maintain the areas that are listed, and then we'll vote on what priority we give them. So, Councillor Marshall's proposed that. Can I have a seconder for that? Which is, thank you, Councillor Coleman. All in favour? So we will look at all, we will maintain all these, or resolve to continue maintaining these areas of land, but at various levels. So back to my, all in favour of that one? Did I do that?
Yes.
Thank you. Right, so going to now we just vote on which bits we will be low, medium and large. So let's work out high, sorry. Let's work from the high ones, which are the important ones. So high priority, which is defined as will be done weekly and will take precedence over and above other areas. And that will be Fair Place Gardens, the formal area of Simmons Park, the beds by the ponds and the rose beds by the bandstand. So, bear that in mind. The next section, which medium area, which is defined as will be done fortnightly and might be done on a reduced frequency if high priority areas need to have work done on them. And that will be the cemetery, Flatswood, and the path adjacent, Westbridge grass area, the grass area behind Liddles, the skate complex, and the grass areas in Simmons Park. Councillor Gillen.
Just wanted to ask a question regarding the skate park. Noting that the council has asked that this is reduced to 3 weekly or monthly. Monthly fine, but if it was on a 3 weekly, would that not throw your cycle out of? Would that create extra work because it's thrown the cycle out? So would that be better monthly? So as it sits within. Does that make sense?
The only problem leaving it for a month would mean there'd be a lot of mess down there. So as long as everyone's happy that there will be a lot of cut grass down there, which will get trampled onto places like the skating area and the BMX track, that's fine. Obviously, doing it fortnightly means there's not too much wet grass that can be put onto the BMX track, which then can cause slips and stuff like that. Especially as it's tarmac now, so that's why we try and do it fortnightly around there. But we're leaving the banks around the BMX track as a sort of wildlife area.
Got Councillor Easton, Councillor Bird.
You cut and clear or cut and spread? You cut and clear or you cut and just leave?
So yeah, we cut and it mulches it down, but obviously when it's shorter, it mulches it down to a very fine that you don't actually see any sort of clumps left around. But obviously, if it grew for a month and it was peak growing time, there'd be big lumps everywhere, and they might go onto the BMX track, and it might cause a few issues.
Also, enrich the ground so it changes what actually grows.
Councillor Bird.
It sounds like if you did it fortnightly, that it causes you less work than if you did it monthly. Is that correct?
It would cause less mess if we did it fortnightly. Doing it monthly just means there'd be a lot more cut grass around. But if we did it fortnightly, like I've been doing, you don't actually tell that we've really cut it. It's all fine, and not much when it's wet. Then not much grass gets taken at other places.
Can we then agree that we keep it fortnightly?
So that was in our medium, which is a fortnightly treatment, as it were. Then finally, the low classification, which is done on an as and when needed basis, will be dropped if high priority areas need to be worked on. And that is the verge by Waitrose, East Street Garden, wildflower area in Westbridge, the planting area behind Liddles, the main area of Platswood, the banks around the BMX track, Platts Meadow, and No Mow May areas. So are we agreed that those are the areas and how we'll divide them up? Now hopefully that one solved the question that we had earlier on about making sure our best bits are maintained more regularly than the others.
You have proposed that bit. I just need a seconder, I think.
Okay. Anyone second that one? Councillor Coleman? All in favour? Thank you very much.
Can I just confirm we are going to do low maintenance on the areas not owned by us. The skate park area is going to be fortnightly, and then you are happy with all the other maintenance schedules that are in the report. Right, that's right, I have got that right.
Item 11, to resolve to approve the payment schedule. Any questions? There wasn't a meeting last week, so I imagine that's why there's two sides.
Yes.
Councillor Coleman? Thank you. Seconder for that? Councillor Bird, all in favour? Thank you very much. 12, governance. Committee terms of reference. To consider the terms of reference for 26-27 and make recommendations to the full council for consideration at the next appropriate meeting. That's on the back of your atlas. Onward.
I don't think I'm helping the trees with this parks report, I'm afraid.
It just highlights land owned by others, including a raised flat and seating area in New Road, the Gateway Muriel area.
Which we've just agreed to maintain, so that
We've
stays
just
in.
agreed to maintain anyway. And that the roof structure should go over to the property committee. I think that's basically the amendments to the
Yes.
Parks Committee, terms of reference. Everybody's happy that we take this forward to the full council? Councillor Leach, Councillor Yelland, all in favour? Thank you. 12.2, play area policy. To consider and make recommendations to the Policy and Resources Committee.
I'm going to blame the park keeper for this one. He went on a ROSPA course and came back saying we needed a play area policy, so this is fully his responsibility.
Apologies.
Councillor Yelland.
I'm glad he's here then to answer a couple of questions. Two,
You've read it.
if I may. One, it relates to page 2. I know it's examples.
If you want it.
You talked about accidents in play areas arise from many causes, including but not limited to. Then there's a list of, but there's nothing there that's kind of touched on anything to do with like adverse weather conditions, because I just thought that may be something relevant.
Yeah.
Well, there could be lots of examples of that, but that is a particular.
Yeah.
And the other thing was on the third part of the report, where you've got your summary, which talks about what we understand, acknowledge the need to do. And I wondered if we should incorporate in there somewhere, which I think we've already got anyway, but it just puts it in the policy, to establish an earmark reserve to enable player equipment to be replaced in the event it cannot be repaired. And then the 1, 2, 3, 4th bullet point up talks about updating and replacing old and defective equipment. Should we include in there remove as well? Should that be word be in there when something particularly is defective, it needs to be removed?
Yeah.
Irrespective of whether it could be replaced at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, completely agree.
Any other comments regarding the policy?
Count which bullet point number it was.
There you go.
Update.
This is a completely new policy, so it'll be reviewed, Tolman Henry, but a couple of recommendations we've already put in. Can you have somebody propose that we accept policy? Councillor Yelland? Councillor Leach seconded. All in favour? Thank you very much.
Resolved to accept with amendments mentioned.
Thank you.
Reports of council work and task completion groups. 13.1, cemetery management. Councillors Fisher, Marsh and myself.
You haven't met.
We haven't met. There you go. I thought that was a bit blank there for a minute. 3.2, projects. Councillor Ireland, Marsh, Tolly and Weeks, the Putting Green improvements.
You haven't met. We're waiting for the weather to warm up before we get back into that. Yes.
There are 14 now. Members' reports and requests for agenda items. To receive reports from members attending other organisations on behalf of the council. First of all, 14.1, Business Improvement District. We had a meeting on the 16th of January where we discussed governance, the job description for a new bid manager. We took back transport, marketing. We had a business breakfast on the 30th of January at the industrial estate, which was, I thought, very successful. We even had a few non-levy payers offering to pay because they wanted to become involved. I was quite impressed with that. where I'm attending a meeting of the Business Network people, alternatives, I think, tomorrow evening, and on the 17th of March we're having another tea time business meeting, so those people that couldn't come to the breakfast one can come after work, and that will be in the London on the 17th of March. And our next meeting is on the 27th of this month. No, sorry, 3rd of March.
A request from the board for a councillor to be nominated to represent the council on the subgroup investigating creation of a farmers market within Oakhampton will be considered next week at full council. We're not ignoring it, it's next week.
So the other one, the Regeneration Board, get down to me again. We had a meeting. We had a meeting on the 20th of January where the bid manager, or the temporary bid manager, and the CODA chairman came along and told us what they were doing. There was an employment fair on the 5th of February in the Charter Hall. The Business Information Point have organised 2 tourism symposiums. The one for West Devon will be on the 23rd of February at Kilworthy Park. Then we discussed the Oakhampton Farmers Market, and they were looking for a representative from the council to go on that subgroup of the Regeneration Board. That's what's going to be on the item for next full council. We're discussing regarding the demolition of the former dessert factory, and with a consultation about the new Lidl plans. And Mary Snedden reported that there's a dynamic Dartmoor project which will deliver a whole suite of activities for the next 5 years, including biodiversity events at the Auckland Valley. And it includes a plan for a community-led Rivers and Moorland Festival in Oakhampton in 2028. And the next date for that is to be arranged. And finally, from me, Opera. We had a meeting on the 28th of January where we basically discussed Oakhampton Argyle's request to end their memorandum of understanding regarding the partnership and use of the Pavilion Lounge. There was discussion about how that was going to a transition system, about asset transfer, communications handover, and an exit strategy. And the next meeting is set for the 4th of March, and the AGM for the 28th of March. Dartmoor National Park, thanks very much.
No meeting.
And
It's just one thing there, that the chief executive will be leaving next month, and I think they're in the final bits of appointing a new one. He's been there for quite a while now, and saw through the court case, and yeah, very well.
thank you. And then finally, in this item 14, Parklands Leisure Centre Users Group, meet the managers. I haven't been in the last, no, so we haven't. I think it's down to us. I will, particularly after your comments, I will, I think it's up to us to go to them rather than they arrange anything formal, isn't it?
Thank you.
So I'll go do that. So, the committee is recommended to pass the following resolution to resolve that under section 1.2 of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, that the public and press be excluded from the meeting from the following items which are confidential by virtue of relating to legal and or commercial matters, staffing and or the financial or business affairs of persons other than the council. Can I have a proposal?
Yeah.
Go into part 2. Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Seconder? Councillor Bird. All in favour? Very much obliged. Thank you.
Hang on.